We are in Fyne Audio room in Bristol Hi-Fi Show, where Alan Sercombe reviewed the Fyne Audio speakers with his records. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Fifth or sixth reviewer sessions of the Bristol show this year. Where we're just changing up, tried to do something different, play some new tunes. We've invited half a dozen sort of senior magazine reviewers, squeaking rooms, half a dozen reviewers to come in and discuss sort of what they're listening for when they're actually reviewing pieces of hi-fi, pieces of music, actually what they are listening for in a particular tune. And they're going to play you that tune and listen for what we've been talking about, what actually makes a good sound from a speaker. And with that very thing in mind, I shall introduce our next guest. There you are, sir. Which is Mr. Alan Sercombe. As we discovered today, I met this man at a press event 30 years ago, so we've known each other for some time. Alan has been present ever since I've been a journalist and media man. This man has stuck to the line, been a journalist in the last 30 years, and has for the last quite a few years been the editor of Hi-Fi Plus magazine. And there is very few people with more experience of the audio industry and reviewing in the audio industry than Alan. Not saying you're old, Alan, but you know, we have been around. So without further ado, I'll let Alan introduce a track. We've got 3 tracks to play you. I'll let Alan introduce a track. We'll listen to the track. I'll then give you a quick rundown of the system you're listening to, and we'll have a bit of a chat about the track as well, and then we'll take it from there into the next track, and so on. Alan.
Okay, hi. First of all, I'd like to apologise for the beard. It's been raining so much, I've been building an ark. It's just, sort of, it's that bad. So, anyway, yeah, as you said, my name's Alan Sercombe. I've been writing for 35 years. I've been editing magazines since 2000, and I've been editing Hi-Fi Plus since 2009. So I've been around the block a bit. We do listen. I did a session earlier with another company, where, hence the large collection of records. We do a fair chunk of listening, and the listening that we do is often very different from the stuff that you hear here, because a lot of stuff that we will play, it's a show. We will play things. So the bits that we will play heighten your experience, your enjoyment of the stuff. But when we're actually listening, we listen quite critically to things. Now, there are key elements that we kind of play, often that we don't describe in the review because we tick them off. If I wrote, because I write quite a lot of reviews, if I put the same records in every single one of them, it would be constantly boring. Because it would be, oh, he doesn't have the same piece, he doesn't have the same thing. But we do go through those processes. So we do listen to a range of tracks for specific needs. The first one I'm going to play is a comparatively recent it's a female vocal by a woman called Alice B. I've completely forgotten her name. That's a good start. Where is it? Come here. Sorry, it's even better. Anna B. Savage, which is she's a kind of conceptual worker. She's worked with people like anyway. She's been with Chemical Brothers and all sorts of people. But this is actually quite a different track.
What sort of things would you be looking for when you use this track now?
This is a very strong vocal, strong female vocal. Female vocal is always very good for trying to determine how how mids and high frequencies work, because generally they're less rough than male voices. Also, this one's, it's not an acoustic track, but it's kind of worked specifically so that it's quite sparse. So it gives you a chance to listen into the stereo imaging. So what I'd suggest you listen for is you listen out for the vocal, you listen for the vocal clarity. Can you hear what she's saying? Can you understand what she's saying? Can you understand the articulation? But more specifically, do you get the theme of what she's talking about? Now, I'm going to hold back and say what it is because it's pretty straightforward. But the better the system, the more you understand what they're singing about. And as you're moving away from K-pop or whatever it is you're listening, you're going to notice that a bit more. You're going to want to listen to the lyrics as lyrics. But in addition to that, there is a sparse but quite well recorded section behind. What you should try and listen for is see how that separates. Does it separate so much that she's almost like singing in another room, or is it quite close? Is it quite close knit? Is it wider the speakers? All of those things we'll kind of use to assess on a piece of music. Right.
Go for it.
Okay. Do you want to take that just for a second? Or you want to do that? Yeah, it's like on track. I'm trying to make it so it's... The other thing we also try and do when it's records is you try and go side one, track one, except when you're testing the tracking of a deck when you listen to the end. Yeah. But when you've done 30 or 40 records at a time, you're going to want to have track one, side one. It's a moody track.
Moody.
When we used to brush our teeth, I would brush our teeth thinking it was going to be forever. But it wasn't. We used to notice the same things. His toenails, that little pug. But that changed. You couldn't see the grave we dug. You didn't seem to notice me deep in the ground. I couldn't move, I called out to you, but made no sound. Thought you were gone, but 4 years on, you're back again. Stop haunting me, please. Just leave me be, When a lover speaks to me, I'm scared I'll say your name. When they're asleep with their back facing me.
Yeah, that is a track. I like that. I've not heard that before.
Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good track. Very emotional.
Yeah.
I can see exactly what you mean by the vocals, because that's got to push out quite a dense mix in the mid-band there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I tell you what I did notice, and as you pointed out as well, is the way that the piano really jumps out when the piano comes in and then fades back out again. And I like the imaging of that. That was very good.
It's quite a clever mix, and I mean, this is not the only track I've used in that sort of sense, but quite often that sort of purity of female vocal with a relatively simple piece about it. I mean, one of the ones I use a lot is a joystick Donato track. Unfortunately, I mean that's not on vinyl, that's on CD or streaming, so it's not something I can use today. But it's one of those things where it's a piece of bel canto opera. So it's her and basically it's a small a light orchestra, but it ends with her and just a French horn. And the interplay of that is so careful and so useful for me to determine how a speaker is working in terms of, as I said, in terms of that articulation, in terms of how image space works and separation of instruments.
Yeah,
it's quite clever.
That's very good. What I'll do now is I'll talk you through the system you're listening to. If you guys want to queue up that next track, I'll talk you guys through here what we're listening to. So the system we're here today is the Fyne Audio F704 SP Special Production. New model to the range and the flagship of the F700 series. two 12-inch drivers, as you can see, a fairly chunky cabinet. Uses, if you like, the three pillar technologies of Fyne Audio, which is the isoflare point source driver that time aligns the tweeter section in the middle of the mid-bass section for perfectly time aligning the whole frequency spectrum. We have the Fyne flute roll surround here, which is a very clever way of terminating energy in the cone. I don't understand, Chris probably does. And the bass tracks porting system, which actually fires the bass downwards in the port onto an inverse Tractrix profile diffuser, which allows the bass to come out of 360 degrees around the bottom of the speaker. That, more than anything, allows for fantastically easy room placement. And honestly, these weigh quite a lot, you don't want to move them around too much. So those three technologies are the core throughout the Fyne Audio range. What we've done with this one, we've added a SuperTrax super tweeter. So this is, it's not rocket science, it is a super tweeter, so it operates from around 16 kilohertz upwards, goes out to this particular one with a very, very clever diaphragm, apparently, the techie people tell me, goes up to about 60 kilohertz. At that sort of frequency range, if you had a dome that was facing forward, the dispersion pattern would look like a pencil. It would be very, very narrow, very tiny. So what would happen, you'd be in a great position. Yeah, not so much. That's what happens when the dispersion pattern gets really narrow. If you're in the right spot, you're great. Person next to you, not so much. So in an endeavour to get away with that, but bring the benefits of the harmonics from these super high frequencies into the audio spectrum, Dr. Mills invented this system, which was now patented, where the dome, the output of the super tweeter fires up onto this Tractrix profile cone, which actually diffuses it linearly into the room in 360 degrees. So essentially what it does, it brings the benefits of a super tweeter to much more spaces in the room. Now, if you've heard super tweeters before, I'm sure you'll appreciate they bring a sort of air and energy to it, more space, sort of a little bit more imaging as they impact on the harmonics further down the range. This realistically brings that very same ability, but to much more people in the room, so it doesn't have to be in a pinpoint position. So these are £20,000 the pair, about 3 or 4 finishes, and we have the S-Trax here is £3,500 a pair in the gloss black or a walnut version. In the middle here, we have a lovely stack of AccuPhase equipment. This includes the new 3000 preamp, which is actually, this is the first show in the world that's actually this preamp's ever been at, so that's a bit of an exclusive for us. It's a C3900S, thank you sir, much appreciated. Second Blue Peter moment of the day. A C300S, the new preamp. These were kindly lent to us by the guys from AccuPhase today. We use a lot of AccuPhase electronics up in the factory to test things with, and I said, look, can we really have a great system to go with this that's going to make the F704s really sing. This stack is around £120,000 worth of AccuPhase electronics, which we are very thankful, Larry, for you to lend. We also have a finely set up Lin LP12 there, which was loaned to us from a Scottish dealer, which was another a nice bonus for us. So we've got a great system. What were the cables in this one? Audio Mika speaker cables in this as well. So as overall, we are looking at sort of approaching £150,000 worth of system. But actually, if we talk about speakers, which is Fyne Audio, we're all about the speakers. These are £20,000 a pair with £3,500 of super tweeter on the top. Right, and at that point, I shall hand back over to Alan to introduce the next song.
Right. So, jazz is a big thing in the audio industry. People play it an awful lot, so nice. But I think also there's a lot of times we play jazz from a very 60s, 70s perspective, and I think that's nonsense. So this is a band called Go-Go Penguin, who are started in early 2000s. They're a British, specifically British band, quite different to the kind of jazz that you know and like. In terms of how this track sounds, there are a couple of things that I use for this. It's a track called Murmuration. And a couple of things that I use is, first of all, again, it's quite an acoustic track. One of the things it has is it's very, very strongly rhythmically oriented. It's got quite a good bass line, and it's very fast. And one of the things that we find with some speakers especially is that when you've got something that's maybe a ported speaker, that will close up. It's one of the reasons why we play a lot of electronica. Often, again, that's often through a CD. But one of the reasons we play a lot of electronic music is to check how a port will work. Because when you've got just a square wave of bass, it's going bop, 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 that can sometimes clog up a port. You'll end up with it sort of slowing a little bit. It's an odd audible scenario when you listen to something. Often you get a very good speaker, very, very good speaker, but it's kind of ruined by the fact that the port is slightly off tune. And a few companies don't necessarily notice this. Fyne are very good at doing this, in fairness, I'm going to say, so you won't hear anything particularly wrong with it. And a lot of companies, when you have this and you listen to the speaker and you play it quite loud, those fast square wave notes will almost bounce into one another when you listen to them. And it's one of the things that we kind of check for, so that you want to make sure there's a kind of rhythmic integrity to a piece of music. And it's much easier when you've got something that's quite a simple percussion. And this, I think, is also, it's a nice track, so enjoy.
That was something else. There was lots going on in there again. That bass is absolutely spectacular, even in the room this size. I love the way you could tell how the keys were played harder and harder towards the end of that.
Yeah,
track.
there's quite a crescendo to that. That's
Yeah.
part of the joy is that you're going to start off by listening to a piece where, as I said, you're determining it. You're trying to determine how the loudspeaker is grabbing hold of the rhythm, and also by that having kind of that listening to that precision of beat, because there's quite frenzied drumming going on. But beyond that, there's this kind of slow build crescendo in it, a bit like a Mogwai track or a bit like something else. Jazz Mogwai is not something I don't think of, but it's. It's a hell of a thing, and as I said, this is the kind of thing that we listen to. It's a great track to play, actually. I'm quite surprised it doesn't get played more. But it's also, it's not simply a kind of show tune. We're not playing it to highlight a system. We're playing it with a very specific intention.
I think it might get played more because half the team were shazamming it to make a note of who it was.
That's how I actually, one of the things that that's worth doing, I hold to this throughout, is I believe this is like a Shazam effect. If you go to any room and you walk out and you haven't Shazam something, it's not worth staying. If you walk in there and think, I've got 4 tracks that I've played, that's a good room.
Yeah, love it. Cool. Okay. I will, at that point, I'm just going to interject and explain one more little piece we're showing today while you guys queue up. That's another one, as it were. I mentioned earlier the SuperTrax Super Tweeter. £3,500 pair. Not exactly budget. We were getting quite a lot of requests for a, frankly, more affordable version of that Super Tweeter technology. So, did launch this last year, but this is its first Bristol outing. This is the Fyne Audio SuperTrax Super Tweeter. Differs from this in only a few fineries of technology. Doesn't quite go so high, but in a much smaller cabinet. The advantage of this little one, other than it's less than a third of the price, is this is actually designed not only with Fyne Audio speakers in mind. This is actually designed as, if you like, an accessory to any loudspeaker. The cabinet is much smaller, allowing the idea is on these we will get the centre of that tweeter aligned with the cone of the tweeter in the driver to get it time aligned. With these, if you take a traditional multi-way speaker with the discrete tweeter at the front of the baffle, you'd need to move this right to the front of the baffle to get those time aligned, which isn't particularly possible with this because it's a much bigger cabinet. So this is actually selling spectacularly well at the moment, and we've taken 2 of them out to reviewers so far. Both reviewers have bought the samples, which I always think is a good thing, because it's not often reviewers put their hand in their pocket, is it? Yeah, see? This is the SuperTrax, well worth checking out. If you're about tomorrow, we'll be doing some demos with this particular one tomorrow. If you're not, however, on your way out after this little session, if you wander past that poster over there, take a picture of that QR code, stick your details in. We're having a prize draw this week for anyone who's been in this room with us to win their own set of SuperTrax Super Tweeters. So with that in mind,
Right, okay, before we do, I'm going to ask a question. There are 2 ways we can do this. We can show something with a bit more, continue where we were going with that, with a bit more of dynamics, a bit more kind of energy, and a little more electronic. It's a bit of a room cleaner, but it's quite fun. Or we can do the other thing that reviewers do, which is an A/B test. Now, I'm not sure if this will work, but it could do. What I noticed as you came in is that you've got a copy of We Get Requests. Yeah? Is that an analog Productions or is it a standard one? It's analog, so it's the 45 one, okay. Because in here, which I have to do carefully, there's a company in Germany called Burmester who make electronics for Porsches, and they make some insanely high-end stuff. And they have released a Japanese lacquer pressing of the same album. It's on 33 as opposed to 45, but this is as close as you get to the original. Now we can do an A/B test between the 2 if you want. So let's have a show of hands. Who wants to do the A/B test? Oh, okay. Damn. Oh well, that's the end for
your nice presumed
that's the end
unused
for
vinyl.
You know, I've used to go play that one a couple of times, and then unfortunately you have to glove up.
Wrapping up today with an A/B testing, a standard record against a high-end record of the same track. The high-end record was made by a German company and it was worth £800. Alan really used a gloves to handle it, and when it was playing, the difference was massive. The SuperTrax tweeter produced the premium details of the higher-end record. If you enjoyed this look into high-end world, make sure to subscribe and join the pursuit. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.